everyone, Liz Klimek here, planetarium manager at the South Carolina State Museum. Well, the days are getting longer and longer as we slide towards the official start of summer, at least astronomically speaking. And that means in order to see what's up in the night sky, we have to stay up just a little bit later, night by night. So in order to see what the night sky has in store for us this weekend, let's head to 9:30 p.m. on Saturday, June 12th. We'll be looking directly southwest from here in Columbia, South Carolina, where you can see there's still a bit of evening twilight. In other words, it's not completely dark out, but it is dark enough for you to be able to see this star-like object hanging out low in the west. And it's not terribly bright, but bright enough that you should be able to see it, and it's the red planet Mars. And we've been lucky enough to have Mars up in our evening skies for quite some time now, but it is getting lower and lower in the west night by night and won't be in our evening skies for too much longer. So definitely take advantage of any upcoming clear nights and go out and enjoy it while you still can. But there are other things to see up in the night sky as well, including this pattern which kind of looks like a backwards question mark. And that is going to be the front part of Leo the Lion, which is one of my favorite spring constellations just because it's a very recognizable pattern up in the sky. Then we also have, looking more towards the southern horizon, a kind of trapezoid shape over here that is supposed to depict a crow called Corvus that might look something like this. And not too far from Corvus is a bright star that just seems to be hanging out all by itself over here. And this is a bright star called Spica, and it's the brightest star in a constellation called Virgo the Maiden. And unfortunately, the other stars in Virgo just aren't very bright, which makes this a pretty difficult constellation to find from an urban setting. So oftentimes, if you do have a fair amount of light pollution, you'll just kind of see Spica here by itself, and it'll just look like a bright star just all by itself towards this direction. But if we pan our gaze a bit upwards, there is another bright star up here with a reddish-orangish tint to it. It's a star called Arcturus, and it's at the base of a kite-shaped constellation called Boötes, the herdsman. But a lot of people see this as a kite or some other shape as opposed to a person standing upright. So there's a representation of our herdsman. And if I pan our gaze off towards the southeast, we're going to see the very beginnings of the summer sky. So we have some summer stars rising over here, but I'm going to save this part of the sky for a bit later when we actually get to summer in later episodes. Because right now there's a lot to see up in the spring sky overhead. And there's also Mars over here towards the west as well. Now I'm going to come back to Mars just briefly over here because there are a lot of exciting things happening on Mars. Most notably, NASA's most recent rover, the Perseverance rover. Of course, there's the helicopter Ingenuity, which just completed its 7th flight on Mars. So congratulations, Ingenuity. But Perseverance here, or Percy for short, is on a mission to collect samples of the Martian surface and cache those samples for retrieval and return to Earth at a later date. So it's what's called a sample return mission. But Perseverance is not the only mission currently happening right now that involves sampling the surface of another world. There is another mission that you might not have heard of just because it hasn't gotten as much press as Perseverance here, and it's called OSIRIS-REx. And this mission aims at getting a sample of material from an asteroid and returning that to Earth. So first off, what is up with the name Osiris Rex. Osiris is the Egyptian god of the underworld and fertility. So why name a mission after that? And Rex reminds me of a dinosaur. And I don't know about you, but this doesn't look anything like a dinosaur to me. So again, why this name? Well, it turns out Osiris Rex is an acronym. And sometimes people get a little carried away with acronyms just because they're so desperate to come up with something that's catchy and memorable and fun, and so they go to great lengths to stitch together words to that end. And I think that's kind of what happened with Osiris Rex. So if we break down what each of those terms, or what each of those letters refers to, we get the origins, spectral interpretation, resource identification, security, regolith, explorer. Those are a lot of terms to link together into a hyphenated acronym. But what these terms are supposed to do is kind of summarize this mission's goal, which is to collect some samples, to collect a sample of an asteroid so that we can study the surface of an asteroid and see how that might be useful to us in terms of using asteroids as raw materials, determine what about asteroids might make them hazardous other than, of course, them smashing into us, and see what their surfaces might tell us about what our solar system was like soon after it formed. Because an asteroid is basically a chunk of rocky material that is leftover debris from the formation of the solar system 4.5 billion years ago. They're similar to comets in that sense, because comets also represent material left over from the formation of our solar system, but comets formed farther out from the sun than asteroids did. So comets formed far beyond the orbits of the giant planets, where it was colder, and so a lot of ices got incorporated into comets. And asteroids are primarily just rocky. And we think of asteroids as kind of only being in the vicinity of the asteroid belt. That's that region of our solar system in between the orbits of Jupiter and Mars. You can see that here kind of highlighted in pink or magenta. But not all asteroids are found in this region, though a lot of them are. And so basically, because they're leftover debris from the beginnings of our solar system, if we can study their properties, that'll give us an idea of what our solar system was like long before we ever got here. And Osiris Rex was sent to a specific asteroid called Bennu. And here's what Bennu looks like. Bennu is not found in the asteroid belt. It is considered to be a near-Earth object. And don't be too alarmed by that term, because it's not near enough that we're worried about it falling from the sky tomorrow, but it is near enough to Earth that we would really like to just keep an eye on it and just make sure we understand its orbit and what it's going to do over the next few hundred years. But you can see what it looks like up close. It kind of looks like a diamond or a top, and kind of looks like a big rubble pile. Here's what it looks like even closer, from a distance of about 3 miles above the southern portion, or hemisphere if you will, of the asteroid. And if I didn't have any labels here, you might just think this is a picture of a gravel parking lot. Like I pointed my phone at the ground and just accidentally took a picture. But when I put the scale bar in there, you can see that that boulder near the center of the image is about 24 feet across. And that gives you an idea of how big these chunks of rock are on the surface of the asteroid. So Osiris Rex's goal was to just kind of collect some of this material from the surface. And unlike the Perseverance rover, which landed on the surface of Mars, Osiris Rex basically reached out with its arm and just kind of scooped up some of the loose rocks there, which is called regolith. And there's another acronym involved, because of course there is, called TAG. That stands for touch and go. So basically OSIRIS-REx reached out and touched the asteroid, kind of grabbed some material, and then backed away. I like to think of the spacecraft as kind of high-fiving the asteroid. And in the process, it grabbed about 60 grams of material that corresponds roughly to 15 to 30 sugar packets, depending on how big sugar packets are that you normally have. And once OSIRIS-REx got that material, it stashed it, and then the spacecraft turned around and just this past May started heading back towards Earth. It's going to be a 2.5-year journey back home. And once OSIRIS-REx does get back to Earth, it's going to jettison its little capsule full of asteroid material, which will land somewhere in the Utah desert in September of 2023. And then we'll have our sample of an asteroid that we can study in our labs and see what we can learn about what a near-Earth asteroid like this is like. So I hope that you enjoyed this kind of deviation from things and going off into learning about a different mission. Oftentimes, oh, there we go. For some reason, it got really blurry. So oftentimes, when there's a Mars mission of any kind, whether it's NASA or another space agency, like China just recently landed a rover on Mars as well, that tends to get all of the attention because Mars missions are pretty exciting because Mars is just so similar to Earth in a lot of ways. And sometimes other missions just kind of get lost in the background there or eclipsed by the Mars missions. But NASA and other space agencies are exploring the solar system in many different ways, and this is just one of those ways. But I hope you'll also go out and be able to enjoy Mars up in the evening sky, as well as all of those spring constellations. I hope also to see you here at the State Museum because the planetarium and the observatory are both open. You can check out the planetarium show schedule at scmuseum.org for more information. Please click below to like, subscribe, and comment. And please, as always, take care of yourselves and each other. And thanks again. Hope to see you back here next time.